we are. It's Monday, June 18th, 6 p.m. in the Harvey hearing room. This meeting will be recorded live and televised on WCAT. Ms. Hames, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Fabiano?
Yep.
Mr. Martucci?
Yep.
Ms. Powell?
Present.
Ms. Swope?
Present.
Mr. Vecchia?
Present.
Mr. Perrin?
Here.
Mr. Capabianco?
Here. Mr. Perrin, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Wow. My first time to see you, Ronnie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have any public comment this evening?
I do. My name is Melanie Connolly. Some of you know me from previous years. I'm a parent of 2 kids at the Fort Banks and 1 entering the Fort Banks in the fall. I'm here tonight representing Mia Moray. You guys may have received some emails from Jeff Carson, who was one of the founders, and he couldn't be here tonight, but I'm working with Jeff right now. Mia Moray is a nonprofit in town dedicated to collecting food that would otherwise be thrown out. So, for example, from the Winthrop Marketplace, the yacht clubs, and the Winthrop Public Schools. Right now it's just the high school. And redistributing that to families and individuals in need. So they've been doing this for almost 3 years now, very successfully, and are growing. This year they're estimated to redistribute about $25,000 fair market value of food. So growing every year for the past 3 years. What we've been working on is a grant proposal. We're submitting for a grant sponsored by the Environmental Protection Agency called the Healthy Communities Grant, and it impacts the schools, which is why I'm here tonight to let everyone know what we're doing. So that grant would be for $25,000. So we're not asking for any money from the schools. It would be a grant to support this program in the schools. And what we're trying to do is expand what Mia Moray is already doing in the schools so that we have personnel to work closely with food service staff to get more food that would be otherwise thrown out to more families, potentially families with children in Winthrop Public Schools or other individuals within the community. The second part of that is education. So we're ultimately trying to work with the school system to do very short, quick education with students on food waste. What is it? Why is it a problem? And what we can do in town to take that food waste and support families. We're applying for the grant on Friday is the deadline. The only thing we need is a signature that the Winthrop Public Schools is committed to supporting us if we are successful in getting this grant. To date, Dr. Carson has sent emails to some of you folks, I understand, as well as to the superintendent, and we have not been successful in garnering that signature. So why I'm here tonight is to make you all aware, if we do not get that signature, we will not get that grant. So Mia Moray will continue with the volunteers that we have, but we cannot grow without that grant, and which would also include an education piece for our students. So that's where we are right now. You'll hear from us again, and if anyone would like to reach out to the superintendent in our support, that would be fabulous. That is the only missing piece right now.
President Vecchia?
I've been in contact with Jeff, and I guess there's been a miscommunication because I spoke to our secretary today and asked her if we followed up on it. And I guess our food service director was trying to contact Jeff to, I guess, coordinate something.
Okay.
And just get a release, and then we get that letter written.
Okay.
Because he also sent us kind of a guideline of what the letter should say.
Yes. I think our question was whether the food service director would be sufficient to apply for the grant or whether we would need approval for somebody else within the school department. That was our question for you folks.
Susan?
Are we applying for this grant, or are you?
No, it's Mia Moray, which is a nonprofit.
Okay, because you just said for us, we have to sign for us to apply for the grant.
No,
Did you
us. We.
Okay.
No, you would be signing that you are supporting Mia More going into the schools if we got the grant. You'd be supporting us talking to students in a formalized curriculum, be it 5 minutes or 30 minutes. We're still figuring that out. That's my role. And also supporting us working closer with food service. We suspect that food service is on board, as Mr. Vecchia mentioned, because they have been all along. We're really limited right now by the personnel to get in there and get more food out. There's certainly no shortage of food being thrown out within the schools.
Well, I do know that they're donating food now.
Yep,
All right.
they are. Yes, absolutely. Yep. There's more to be tapped in. There's 2 more schools that we don't even collect from right now.
So she needs a signature by Friday.
Well, that's the question I have, is which signature you need? That's the big question, and it doesn't seem like we have an answer, whether it's the, hey, can we see the grant? I mean, I just wanted to see what we're signing on to.
Exactly.
Well, can you had explained in the letter, can you tell us what you're asking for the schools within that grant?
So it's a letter of commitment from the schools stating that we have access to the food service staff and the teachers to run by them whether this curriculum can somehow fit within their time. So they're not committing to 8 hours a week or some huge amount of time. It's really they're committing to meeting with us to see what we can do. That's it. There's no further guidelines right now. Yes.
Are we committing also to some kind of educational component with the students?
Yes. That's a big part of the grant.
All right, so there would be some time set aside during the time they're there for you or your staff to meet with them once that curriculum is approved by the teachers?
Exactly.
Or by the, not only teacher, but by probably the principal. Right?
So,
I would think.
Suzanne,
yes.
if I may, we can't commit to anything right this second because the superintendent isn't here tonight, as you can see, but I understand that there's a rush here.
Mhm.
So I think what we could do tomorrow or the next 24 hours is try to get in contact with her and see what the answer may be and try and get in touch with you as soon as we can.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
What's the term of it? Is it a 1-year commitment, or is it a?
It's 1 year within Winthrop, and then our phase 2 is actually to, once we formalize the curriculum and expansion within Winthrop, is actually to roll it out in Revere and East Boston. So Revere, Dr. Carson met with one of the Revere schools last week, and they have committed.
So do we have a copy of the grant in-house?
I don't think so.
No,
I think
no, I don't
think that
we
would
sent
be
that.
important so we can see what the,
Absolutely. Okay, so
Yeah.
we can send that
Yeah,
out
see
to the
what-
full school committee, is that appropriate? Okay,
and make sure it gets to the superintendent's office as well.
that would be
Yeah.
fabulous. That's really what we're missing.
Okay. And we'll see what we could do in the next 24 hours.
Awesome.
Try and get an answer.
Thank you very much.
Any further public comments? All right, moving on, I don't see any delegates and visitors here this evening. We do have to approve 2 minutes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 21st meeting.
So moved.
So moved by, second by Ms. Swope. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention.
1 abstention, and the ayes have it. A motion to approve the June 4th meeting.
So moved.
By Mr. Vecchia, seconded by Mr. Perrin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. We do have a few warrants today. I'll make a motion to approve warrant SVW 1822 in the amount of $200,947.93. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Swope. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
1 abstention. We have a payroll warrant, SPW 18-24, in the amount of $672,890.58. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Abstention, the ayes have it. And we have a budget transfer in the amount of $93,436.70. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Swope,
Second.
seconded by President Vecchia. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. And we do have a buildings and grounds request by the WHS football cheerleaders for Saturday, July 14th for 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. For the ATC driveway car wash, and they do have all the paperwork and the custodial fees.
Motion approved.
Motion by President Vecchia, seconded by Mr. Fabiano. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. All right. Subcommittee reports. Mr. Natucci, Budget Subcommittee.
So what we want to do tonight is vote on accepting the town's allocation, which would be our budget appropriation. The fiscal 18 budget was $19,341,310. The town has graciously given the school department $800,000 in addition to that, which is $20,141,310. So I need a motion to approve that budget allocation from the town.
Make a motion to approve?
Motion by Ms. Powell.
Discussion?
Yeah, we have to make a motion. Second by Mr. Fabiano. Do we have any discussion on that motion?
Yes. If we have questions line by line, do we have to approve it today and then go on from there to try to adjust those line by lines? Or do we have to hold off on approving this, have some more discussions line by line, and then possibly have a special meeting next week to approve it? Could we have another budget subcommittee in between where we just got this like last week and I personally have a few questions about it? Or are we approving just that total?
We're approving the total,
Yeah.
but you've had the budget for several months now.
But we
What you
haven't
haven't
had
had-
some final number.
What you haven't had is the reductions that had to be made because we weren't level. We didn't get level service.
Correct.
So, but there's only a few of those. Is that something you can't do tonight?
Well, but some things I think should be reduced rather than others. So, and I only got that last Tuesday, Wednesday, what day? I forget what day it was. And since I got that and I've been looking through it, I have some suggestions. I'm not sure if they're the right answers, but I certainly have some suggestions of, could we adjust this? Could we do this? I don't know how it's, how I was able to, bring that up when I got it on Wednesday to this point, where we are today.
So
So I don't know the exact procedure.
Yeah, it's okay. So what we're going to vote on tonight is the amount of money that the town's appropriating to the school department. During this time, the committee has the authority to change or move anything they want, whenever they want, with the vote of the committee. So if you wanted to change something in the budget, we can do that, but then we'd have to vote on that. So it's not that we have to, whatever this is, whatever these changes are, has to be etched in stone for the rest of the year. It can be changed, but it's going to take a vote of the committee to change it.
So can we have a budget subcommittee set up sooner rather than later?
Sure.
So we can go through this so we don't get too far along where then we can't go backwards?
Yeah.
That we can't make those changes?
Yeah.
Mr. Perrin.
Can I make a suggestion that we have a budget subcommittee meeting prior to the next meeting? Would that give sufficient time? I mean, we can vote on the allocation tonight.
I would like to have one next week personally, only because I'd like to do it before the July 1st and we get into that next year. Our next committee meeting's when? July what? 14th?
We don't even have it set yet. We're
So-
meeting next week to set the new schedule.
So I'm afraid of it being a big gap and we don't
Yeah.
accomplish what we want to. If we could do it next week and have these discussions and have it ready to go before July 1st.
Yeah. Ms. Eccles had a comment.
We can do that. We can do that. But we need to vote this before July 1st.
Right.
Because our new budget money starts July 1st.
I have to be able to enter this budget
Yeah.
in on July 1st.
Yeah.
So personally, and this is up to the committee, what I'd rather do is, which I think is a lot, but is to have a budget subcommittee next week and then have a special meeting right after that to approve the whole budget as a whole. But if that's too much, I understand, and I'm fine with, okay, we'll approve that tonight, or we'll take a vote to approve that tonight, and then have a budget subcommittee next week prior to July 1st, so we can have some serious discussions with the superintendent before that July 1st. date.
Sorry, I didn't really miss.
Yeah, no, I appreciate what you said, because I think all of us probably here have some ideas about how we would like to juggle. Here's my concern. I have two ideas. I mean, I have two cuts that are going to be made that I am very concerned about. I also feel that Lisa and the principals have spent hours on this and thought of all kinds of trade-offs. So I can appreciate their hard work in this. And I really appreciate it because when I go down the budget, I'm not sure I can find the money in an area where I think we, in my opinion, even though I haven't worked with it, feel we could cut it to then put back in the kind of activities that I think are important on the educational side. I think we have the safety side covered from this, but on the educational side, with the cuts, I think they are, they're not necessarily in the best interest of the kids. On the other hand, if we have to live within this budget, I know it sounds like certainly a lot of money, $800,000, but when Lisa went through it, there's ladders and links, and then there are all the special education mandatory requirements, and then there are the safety requirements. So I too am concerned about it. I would love to have an opportunity one more time to go through this, just to make sure that we as a committee, or I as one of the members, make sure that I can see no other possibilities. And I take it there are no other possibilities for any more money at this point. Is that right? I mean, this is final anyway, Gus, right?
Yep.
There's no other possibility.
What we're voting on now is just the number.
Yeah.
That's all it is the number.
As I understand from Lisa too, that as things progress through the summer and changes are made, she can then move some things around too, because she's not happy with having to cut some things either. So, but I would like another.
Yeah. The budget's it's a living budget. We can move things around in there.
No, I know,
We
it's
just
the
have
bottom
to-
line
it's
number
the
that we're
money.
talking
Yep.
about tonight. And if
Bottom
there's
line.
no other change, and there's no other choice than the bottom line number, I don't think we have any.
Yeah.
I agree totally that Lisa and the leadership team, they're the experts here. But I think it's also important that different ideas are thrown out there that they
Right.
might not think of, that, they're in the routine of, we need this. Well, then we come in and say, well, what, can't we do this? And it just kind of throws some different things out there. And so I think that's important, and I'd like to have that opportunity,
Yeah.
if it's possible.
I renew my motion that we vote on it tonight and have a meeting sometime in the future to deal with ideas. People have more time to dig into the budget, but really the bottom line number is the bottom line number. Nothing's going to change there, and I
Right.
think, we have time to make those changes, and we're going to hear more things as we start reading through it
Correct.
that may concern us and not concern us, but I think we need to vote on the budget tonight in totality, and then we can sit, it's unfair not to have the superintendent here to discuss it either.
I agree.
so-
Exactly.
Yeah. Ms. Powell, do you have a comment?
So you're talking about having, the motion that I had made was to approve the budget. So you want to amend to say approve the budget and have a subcommittee meeting, and do we have to actually have to
I
have
don't think you need a motion for the subcommittee.
Right.
Yeah, we
just
just
want
we
to
can
vote
just-
the bottom line.
Understood.
That's all.
That-
That's all I
Right.
wanted to
Say the
Support
next
your
two,
motion.
within the
Okay.
next week or two, Mr. Matucci will call for a budget subcommittee meeting.
Yeah.
I think that sounds, I understand the concerns and people wanting to be able to ask questions, and it sounds like we would be able to do that, so.
Okay. Ms. Hames, will you please call the roll on the motion?
Exception to budget, yeah. Mr. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchia?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes. The ayes have it. Moving on, we had an athletic subcommittee meeting last week. Mr. Fabiano, would you like to present to that meeting?
Yep, so myself and Tino were there, it was on the 14th at 6 o'clock. We were discussing the community use of Miller Field. We looked over the license agreement with the town. We also looked at an email from the Miller Field Committee discussing that they worked out, got the information that Parks and Rec's got a grant to cover 20 hours, 2 individuals, 20 hours each, for a total of 40 hours per week. And be run through Parks and Rec. So Tino and myself, we took a vote, and the wording was, the motion was to open Miller Field to the community 40 hours a week, over 7 days a week, covered by the Massport grant in conjunction with Parks and Recs, starting 7/1 to 8/23. The hours to be determined by the superintendent and Parks and Recs. So that's the motion we voted on, and we're 2-0 in that, approving that motion. My biggest concern is, obviously, we want to open it to the community as soon as possible, but I also want to be able to give Lisa the power, when she finalizes the agreement, to start it that day. Not have to come back to us July 15th or our next meeting or anything like that. I don't know how we do that as well, or if we can, but I certainly like to give her the power to.
I think you could pass this with, a stipulation with the approval of the superintendent of the plan.
Well, she's already included here. What I'm afraid is Lisa not feeling comfortable coming to an agreement with Parks and Recs and then saying, okay, I have to bring it back to the school committee to approve it. I don't want her to have to wait to come back to us to approve it.
Haven't we had discussion that it was going to be funded through Massport, through Parks and Rec? She's aware of that, is she not?
Yes, she's aware of that, but they haven't had a final agreement. What I'm afraid of is them coming to a final agreement and then Lisa wanting to come back to us.
When you say agreement on the hours, agreement on what?
Well, I don't think they've come to a total agreement, have they? Because they're having the meeting the 28th?
Yeah.
I don't think it's
just-
finalized.
From it's just, if we could do this, would you be open to it? That's my understanding of my conversation.
Well, I think you should approve something tonight
Yeah.
that the superintendent can put her seal on when she gets back, because, we need to get the field open. We made a commitment to the voters that this would be open to the public. And, at some point in time, after July 1st, there's going to be a window of 2 or 3 weeks that we have to close it again, because they have to do the track.
So I spoke to Vinnie Crossman tonight. So it's 2 weeks for the track itself. When they do the field work, they won't have to close the track. But when they do the track, they'll have to close the whole
Absolutely.
place.
So you're
it's a
gonna
2
lose
week,
a couple of weeks.
Right, so it's a 2-week period somewhere in the summertime that we don't know when, that it will have to be closed again, just because we need to paint the track.
According to your agreement, or the motion that you made, it was from July 1st to what, August 28th?
23rd.
August 23rd.
And that, the reason we just made a motion basically saying approve it so we could come here tonight, and we looked at the 23rd because that's when football camp starts. That's
My
just the
suggestion
generic
is to
date.
move this along as quickly as you can. Approve what you can approve tonight, and then have the superintendent review it and sign off on it, so you don't have to come back for another meeting, so we can get this thing open July 1st. That's my recommendation.
So the question is, if we do approve this, does that give her the authority to finalize it?
I think we could-
Depends on your motion.
Why not?
Brian, does
Why
that make
wouldn't it?
sense?
Depends on the motion.
Since, if I may, since the facilities manager is here, do you have anything to add to this, or?
There's nothing final that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And you already trained a bunch of the students, from what I understand?
Which students?
The Parks and Rec students?
Not at the moment.
Vinnie said that
I know it once everything's finalized.
nobody's been trained?
My concern is that there is language in the 1-year lease agreement that it has to be, make sure that we maintain it and the field is watched upon, and I just don't know if there's an age requirement or anything like that in the lease.
There's nothing in the, I have the lease right there. Under the section.
What's your motion again?
So my motion,
Oh, it came out of committee?
that came out of committee, to open Miller Field to the community 40 hours a week, 7 days a week, over 7 days a week, covered by the Massport grant in conjunction with Parks and Recs, starting 7/1 to 8/23. The hours to be determined by the superintendent and Parks and Recs.
So that mentions nothing about the superintendent having anything to say about who is going to administer the field. Because the agreement specifically says in the public use section that it's supposed to be a town
staff member. I don't know if I would consider, and although I love the Massport program and the students, but I don't know if I'd consider the students of the Massport summer program funded by Massport grant as town employees or town staff members. So, and the other thing too is I think it's a lot to ask of a student to be an administrator of a $10 million facility. I would think it would be someone, a town employee that would be trained, and of course the student, the Massport summer program students would assist that person. I think that would be fantastic. But I don't feel comfortable with the students being able to administer the field. I know that Mr. Mallius has had extensive training and knows the field, knows what to do, but I'm not sure that the students would be the right people to be in there and doing that. I think there could be a system, would be great.
My thing, the only difference between what Vasily does and what, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Mr. Parent.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's all right. I've been raising my hand. The only concern I have is collective bargaining agreements. Are we going to open the door where we're opening up to grievances to full-time employees for the school department of the town that would normally get that work? If we're superseding that by saying that, it's happened in the past with different things we've done. I just want to make sure that we reach out to Paul Hodnett and get that okay, or that's the only concern I have. I like the idea of having Massport people helping us, but I'm concerned by doing that, it may create a collective bargaining. Maybe we could have a union grievance that work's being replaced.
So one possibility to solve that problem might be if the hours are there while the janitors, excuse me, the custodians are there. So if we have to, I was asking Lisa if we can adjust the custodians to be a split shift where one of the custodian works 7 to 3 and the second one works 2 to 10. I don't know exactly that procedure, but they would be the ones to go in there and open and close, but the other students would be there watching. I don't know if that's a possibility.
I get, go ahead.
I have one, first of all, let me state that I really do want to open this field.
Yeah.
This is not, anything I'm going to say tonight is not meant to be an obstructionist, because
No,
I
absolutely.
personally would like to get on that field as well. However, I want to make sure that we are protecting that facility,
Absolutely.
because that is a huge amount of money that we put in it, and I am concerned about people going in there and not treating it appropriately. So with the school, if you're asking the school, our custodians,
has been issued for your location.
do we need a shelter in place? Do we need is there a basement?
Yeah.
That's where I need to go.
Fallout shelter.
Tornado's coming, we gotta get to the basement.
Should I leave it on?
I would.
Yeah, so everybody that's watching can hear it.
So if you're asking the school custodians to do it, then we're bearing the expense, which my understanding was not the intent, it was that the town would do it.
But we own it, that's the problem.
Well, we're leasing it.
You're leasing it.
And the agreement was that there would be a town employee who would be in charge of it. I don't disagree with using the students. I don't know, the collective bargaining question you raise is very important. But with the students, I agree that with Gus that they're not able to be responsible. I think they could be there, I think they could help out, but I think there needs to be an identified employee adult within Parks and Rec, that's fine, but somebody who is in charge of them, and to say, here's your hours, here's when you're supposed to be there, did you do your job, did you not do your job, are you making sure that they're there? So, and who is that person going to be? And I fear that because we're trying to rush in, we're trying to get this done, we're not making sure that those pieces are in place, and I think that Lisa is perfectly capable of it, and it sounds like what we want to do is give her carte blanche to say, these are the parameters that we want to have, and as long as you've got those things in place, then you can move forward with your agreement. And that's a proactive.
I guess the question I would ask, let's fast forward to next year at this time, okay? When the field house is complete, all right, and it's turned over to the school department, what is the plan of the school committee next year?
I was thinking that through. I'm going to cut James now. I think we're eventually hiring someone to actually be in charge of the field at some point, a maintenance person. I think we kind of rolled them into custodian this year because we're still under construction. So I think that would kind of alleviate some of this problem going forward, but right now, you know, it's on you.
Mr. Fabiano?
Next year, we'd also have the security cameras up and running.
Yeah.
So that will solve some of the problems if we feel uncomfortable. Right now, they're not up because the field house isn't done. The other concern of, you know, being damaged and things like that, we're most likely talking hours 7 in the morning to 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon to 7 in the afternoon. And on the weekend, 7 in the morning to 11. We're not talking about times where kids are out, you know, causing damage late at night, things like that. So I'm not overly concerned. And I realize we have to protect ourselves, but we also have to find a solution. And if we have to go about it, maybe not the perfect way, but find that solution, I'm okay with that.
So if I may, I have a suggestion, since Lisa's not here. What if we were to make a motion this evening, basically saying that we'll send a letter to the superintendent that the school committee feels strongly that by July 1st, we would like to see her work with whoever it may be and a schedule be announced as long as the lease agreement is followed and we could have and everything's worked out, a schedule of public hours announced to the community.
I think that's great, we want to settle this.
Does that sound okay?
And don't forget the collective bargaining issue. I think would be very
So, yeah, I think that's exactly what we should do tonight is propose the hours that you guys talked about. But before the superintendent is able to sign off or whatever,
Yeah.
give permission, there need to be a trained
Yep.
town staff member. And then that would be, and then the Massport students could assist. And then when she feels comfortable and everything's met, then we'd be good.
And we would like to see this by July 1st. That's what I'd like to add to that.
If it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, you only have 9 weeks. If you open it July 1st, it's
Yeah.
only 9 weeks.
Yeah.
And out of that 9 weeks, 2 are gonna be, and you know how contractors act.
Yeah.
That 2 could probably be 3 weeks,
That's
and then
right.
you're down to 6 weeks.
Yep.
And I think you made a very valid point that this thing is not gonna be open, there's thousands of people gonna be in there. It's gonna be open for a short period of time, so if parents wanna walk instead of going through the school, they can walk around the track. That's the kind of things.
Sure.
And most likely, you're gonna have, 5 people at a time, unlike, you know, football games and things like that, where you have big groups. You're talking about a few people here, a few people there, so
I just wanna-
it's another point that I do feel the students, for the most part, can handle the situation, because it's not, all right, somebody walks in with a dog, they might not tell them to get the dog out of there, but overall, they're not gonna, they're there for the eyes, and I think they'll be able to do what we're asking in the sense of watching over the place. Me
Agreed.
personally, I'm not overly concerned.
Agreed. I think the students are fine. It's just
Yeah.
that so long as they're supervised properly, I think that works. The hours that you're talking about, can you tell us what those are?
So they're more presented by NOAA Field committee. Do you remember exactly what it was?
I think it was 6 to 10, 6 to 11, 7 to 11, and then probably something
Vasily, do you have it by any chance?
I want to say it was 6 to 9:30 in the morning.
in the morning.
And is that due to?
Oh, here it is. I got it
That's
right
due
here.
to that,
think
when
it's
we
the
would have the
fund.
coverage?
So this is their suggestion, 6 in the morning to 9:30,
Gotcha.
Monday through Friday. 4 at night to 7 at night, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday left open for the high school, and then Saturday and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that was their suggestion.
Is there a motion on the table?
There's a motion out of subcommittee.
Well, there's also a motion that
Yeah, I'll remove my motion.
But I think,
Sorry.
I think the motion should be to give the superintendent the power to explore and take steps
with the town manager.
with the town manager in order to, with a target date of July 1st, if possible, provided that they explore all the issues that are outstanding, collective bargaining, supervision,
The lease.
whether we even have the bodies there,
The lease.
and from that, give her the power to do that.
Sure.
Agreed.
I'd second that motion.
Okay, second that one.
Yeah,
So what exactly is
So,
that
okay,
wording?
yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Could
Yeah.
you
No,
repeat the
it's a
motion?
letter.
You got that, Patty, right?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I don't know if I can say it again. No, it's just a motion to give the superintendent the authority with a target date of July 1st for public access, provided that it's funded, proper supervision, it complies with the terms of the lease, and that there are no collective bargaining issues or any other issue that she sees as an impediment to getting it done by July 1st.
Second.
Do we have any further discussion?
Move the question.
All right, just, Ames, you please call the roll on that?
Mr. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchia?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes. All right. Moving on, we have a lot of personnel this evening. First, let's congratulate Nora Grimes, who's been named principal of the Arthur T. Cummins School. Congratulations, I think that's well deserved. Excellent. We do have some resignations. Christina Crichton is an ELL coordinator. Jeray Farrell is a special ed teacher. Ian Krushank is a high school chemistry teacher. Keith Anderson is a grade 7 math teacher. April Leavenworth is a grade 6 teacher. Helen Yurchenko is a high school science teacher. For retirements, we have Judith Dada as an assistant food manager for 23 years. Lorraine DeFranzo has been an ESP for 12 years. Frankie Fabiano, assistant football coach for 28 years. Congratulations, Frankie. Rose Fiorina has been a teacher for 30 years. Doreen Gillis has been an ESP for 12 years. John McDougall has been a custodian for 30 years. Judith McGee has been a special ed teacher for 33 years. Anne Marie Taudell has been a kindergarten teacher for 24 years. And Stephanie Vassilos has been a speech language pathologist for 29 years. And Andrea Wombold has been a grade 6 teacher for 30 years. At this time, I'll also like to make a motion to approve the 2018 retirement citations that will be handed out at the end of the year retirement party this Wednesday. And I'll read an example of one so we know what we're voting on. A resolution, whereas Doreen Gillis has completed 12 years of service to the students of Winthrop, whereas Doreen Gillis has been devoted and loyal friend of colleague, whereas Doreen Gillis has had a strong positive impact on scores of Winthrop students through her display of genuine concern for young people, therefore be resolved that the school committee of the town of Winthrop expresses its congratulations and best wishes, and that it is voted, made by part of the official minutes of the Winthrop School Committee on June 8th, 2018. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? You guys have it. We did post a few positions. We have a history teacher at WHS, a long-term substitute in the resource room teacher, a grade 6 ELA teacher, and a 2018-2019 mentoring positions. We do not have any leave of absence. And do we have any public comment this evening? Any further public comment?
I would just like to add that the 8th grade had a very successful trip down to Washington, D.C. I'd like to recognize Andrew Rowley, who is the 8th grade coordinator. He did a fantastic job. He brought roughly over 100 students down there. And the kids, like they do every year, say they had a blast. So.
And thank you for being a chaperone. I appreciate it.
It's a long 4 days and a tiring 4 days, but it's well worth it.
Any further public comment or public relations? Mr. Matucci?
What's up?
I'd just like to thank all those who were involved in the Walk for Josh. It was a tremendous event. Thanks to everyone on the board who was involved in that. Mr. Perrin?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Agree on the walk for Josh. It was fantastic to see all the great turnout.
Ms. Swope? President Vecchia?
Oh, ditto. The Josh Walk, it was phenomenal. They raised a lot of money. I think the number is like $23,000.
Excellent.
And also a shout out to the middle and high school band concert last Wednesday night. And I get very emotional when I start talking about music in the Winthrop school systems. But to see the kids play, it was just phenomenal. And these kids are actually learning college material in music, and they've done a phenomenal job. So my hats are off. And also, Mr. Chairman, maybe we can, at some point in time, put some citations together for the
Absolutely.
Platinum Award winners, the band as well.
Absolutely. We'll do that.
I think they have one more concert. There's one more concert scheduled,
Okay.
so maybe we can do that.
Absolutely.
It was a great night.
Alrighty. Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The ayes have it.